course those people are just going to automatically hate it. They have to. In order to make a living, they have to be angry all the time. So I don't really view them as like a particularly valid critic.
Number one, I would assume that it would go well. Like, I would assume that they would do right. Like, in my mind, like Hobbit and like what got done in that little era is like that's a whole, like, I don't even in a sense count any of that. But yeah, like I definitely would, think that this would be really good. Number one, but then number two, like to your point about like with a lot of these other characters, people are feeling like, why are all these, characters that have been traditionally white, getting swapped out for, black people or Asian people or whatever else, and to your point on that, really what it speaks to is like how like white is the default. Like that's literally the default skin. So like, with that being the case, like that's what makes it interchangeable is because it's written in such a way that they're just automatically white. That's just what you automatically assume, but they're never actually written explicitly white. Unlike what you were saying, like with Black Panther, like he's explicitly black, and it's because he's not default. His culture is not default. So like I think that like that those kinds of issues, like the problems that people have with that, speaks to like the inherent issue of like the racialization of like characters, and also like that whole idea of like of default whiteness, and how it's like, because of the fact that like we just ran off of the presupposition that like just by the nature of them being written that like they're just white. Now that we're at a time where we're like post that, people are like, oh, there's nothing in here that says they have to be white, so let's change it. And so we have kind of a clash there. But yeah, I think that like just from like what I've seen, I really don't think that that's going to be an issue, right? And
I think a part of what it is that sets some people off, I don't really think it's justifiable to set people off, but it's like when people look at that stuff, they think to themselves, oh, the studio is being like, look what we did. And so they take it as like this kind of sort of personal affront. But another part of me is like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, right.
Well, what do you want them to do? I don't know. I've seen that like some of the channels you would expect to hate it are saying that they hate it, and I'm like, wow, big surprise. Like Nerdrotic and the Quartering, they're like, it's garbage, and I'm like, of course you think it's garbage. You have to think it's garbage. You thrive on making people angry. It is how you make your money. You have to hate it. If you want to pay your rent, you have to hate this show because your entire channel is predisposed on the idea of making your audience angry every time you upload. Right. So, of course, those people are just going to automatically hate it. They have to. In order to make a living, they have to be angry all the time. So I don't really view them as like a particularly valid critic. So the thing I'm reading now says that when she leaves Middle-earth, she's 8,000 years old.
Oh, jeez.
And this is 3,000 years before that, this show.
Good Lord.
So when the great foe Morgoth destroyed the very life of our home.
Who? Yeah, I was just saying that like something about that animation of their like bodies or whatever reminded me of Alita. I don't know what it is, but
Every trace of our enemy is vanquished, I can never return.
This does sound more like a personal problem.
Facts.
Like, I get it. He's a very powerful foe. And I understand the idea of going after him while he's still gathering strength. But if he's already as powerful as they say he is, I'm not so sure the ragtag approach will entirely cut it.
They're like, screw you. We don't want to do this anymore.
Uh-oh. It's a black person.
Oh.
Turn it off.
This is... Something feels wrong about this show, guys.
Right. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. Throw it all out. They're destroying Tolkien's legacy.
Everything.
Okay, what I'm having the hardest time with is that the baby kept quiet until it needed to not be quiet anymore.
Right.
It's almost always the complete opposite. With that chin.
Look at that. Look at that strong chin.
He looks like a mix of Andy Serkis and John Krasinski.
They're like, we like this guy. I don't know why. I just love these scenes. It just like, it brings a calmness to me. I don't know, that I haven't had in a show in a while.
The lot you lump us in with died off 1,000 years ago. When are you people gonna let the past go?
What do you mean by you people?
I think you talk too much. And you smell of rotten leaves.
Got him.
And be grateful that you need never see them again.
So you all on some racist stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean there was plenty of biases. Even during the Third Age, during Lord of the Rings. Not everyone was like super keen on Aragorn and Arwen. It was not like a normal thing for them to do.
Yeah, and I already saw like a review where they were hating on stuff like this, being like, oh my god, I get it, agendas. And I'm like, actually, if you really think about it, the wokeness of it was already in Tolkien's lore. Like, that was something that was frowned upon. Elves, and like that was such a huge story plot even in the original trilogy. It's like they're just hitting it a little bit more in this one. I don't see it as a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing with it is like there's so many other things that were like far more important to like telling those stories than what we're seeing here. Like here, we're actually seeing it featured more prominently, and I think that's what's like throwing people off.
Where are you going?
Holden's a day's journey. If I leave now, I can reach it by dusk.
I'm going with you.
What about the cow?
That cow, man.
That's actually funny. I didn't think about that. That's funny. He's like, hey, sorry, we gotta go. Sorry about your cow, bro.
Hey, man, prayers up for that cow.
Yeah, we'll pray for it, you know, manifest the healing.
Thoughts and prayers for your cow.
Lots of prayers. Sorry that your livelihood's gonna be ruined.
The skies are strange.
I don't know why. It's one of my favorite lines in the show. I like the way he says it,
Skies
too.
are strange.
I don't know why. Just like the way he delivered it. I don't know. I liked it. It was really cool. Dude, this guy looks like he could be an H&M model.
He has been.
I mean, he probably has. And they're like, you want to be in Lord of the Rings? Yeah, I think I do.
Well, I mean, I
Oh my
appreciate them casting folks that not a lot of people know, because so did the original trilogy.
Yeah, no, exactly. I appreciate that. Like, there's honestly not a lot of actors here that I'm like, yep, that's a Brad Pitt.
Like, how uncomfortable is that to just stand there?
I know.
It's part of the culture, man. Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, wow, that's a lot of commitment. Just, he's like, girl, chill. Can you like chill? We're about to go to heaven. Chills. God, I love this. The music, the trees.
That's what I'm saying about like her character is one that like tends toward that darkness, which is like very interesting. As much as she hunts it out.
I don't know how far it is.
He was like, I'm wrong? The evil isn't gone?
Like literally the moment he said war is over. Hey, What?
So he like crashed into the ground. J.A. Bayona? Really?
Yeah.
That is not who I expected to see there.
Yeah. He's actually a pretty good director, except for his one movie called Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Rip.
You know, just that little one. But he did a movie called A Monster Calls, and that was freaking amazing. Yeah. That was episode 1, guys.
It's an intriguing start. I mean, I'm not like, whoa! Just okay.
Yep. For me, I mean, so like I'm thinking of it in a couple of different ways. Visually, obviously, it was like stunning. It was great. Cinematography was great. All the mood was there. The lighting was there. They didn't use a lot of like camera movement. I don't remember the in the original trilogy. Like, I feel like it was pretty similar in that way. Like there wasn't a lot of like motivated camera movement or whatever, unless you're talking about like action or something like that. So, but anyway, like, yeah, visually it's like it's beautiful. As far as like the pacing goes, like I feel like it's a nice ebb and flow. Like I don't feel like it's too much at one time or where it's like too sparse.
Yeah.
It's like just enough to keep me engaged. And like whenever there are a lot of like movements that are happening, then there's like times where, you know, you can actually like breathe, catch up, take in scenery, all that kind of stuff. As far as like the story so far, I think that it's been fairly captivating. Is it still playing for y'all?
No, I'm just skipping. I'm pausing episode 2.
Okay.
Okay. I was like, wait, yeah, I hear that too.
I was like, what? Yeah, let me mute it on my end so you can do okay. But yeah, I mean, as far as the story goes, like it's pretty intriguing. I'm trying to think like if I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings, I think it would be I think for me it'd be a pretty welcoming experience only because it's like the sheer like grandness like of the story and of the world.
Yeah.
There's like a richness to it, there's a depth to it. And even though it's kind of like you're thrust into this thing that already has certain rules and you're finding out what these rules are, but in meaningful ways. And so like I think if I was a first time watcher, I think it would be pretty fun in that way. And it hasn't gotten to a point where it's like rule, like all this little weird stuff, like where you're just bogged down, like in just trying to understand the world or trying to remember these people do that, yada yada. I think it's flow together pretty seamlessly. And yeah, like I'm curious to see what happens with these different characters. Obviously, like they've kind of carved out who the different characters that we're going to be following. That's pretty clear. And that like there are mixed motivations for stuff, and it isn't necessarily good guy, bad guy, even though there's definitively a bad guy.
Yeah.
The characters that we're following so far aren't necessarily, oh, okay, this is going to be the good guy we're following, this is going to be the bad guy we're following.
Yeah, the show does have that uphill fight of the prequel uphill fight of kind of battling the idea of audience knowing the foregone conclusion in some instances. Like, we know Sauron's going to live past this story. We know, or at least partially. I can't remember when exactly it is that his finger gets sliced by a seal door. Like, there's a lot of stuff we already know. We know.
I think that's actually going to happen during this. I think, well, maybe not season 1. I feel like this is going to be like, I feel like they're going to take time with Isildur. Is
this going to be a multi-season
is that his name?
show? Isildur.
Season 2 is already confirmed. I feel like they could go. I mean, I heard rumors it might just be 3 seasons, but I also heard it could be 5. So far with the Rings of Power, I agree with you, Richard. I think the characters. I'm actually really enjoying the characters. Some people are saying how like there's only certain characters so far in the show that I'm really attached to, and everyone else I don't really care about. No, I like everybody in this show. I think the world building is fantastic. I don't feel like the pacing was a drag for me. I felt like the dialogue sequences, which 95% of this show, this episode, is just dialogue. There's only really 2 action sequences. It's the montage sequence, and then when she kills the snow troll. And that's really it. And then the rest of the episode is 55 minutes of dialogue. To me, if people think that's boring, did you ever watch Lord of the Rings? Because you would hate the Lord of the Rings because it's a lot of talking. But like to me, it's obviously like how's the dialogue? Just because there's talking and it doesn't mean it's actually really well thought out, intelligent dialogue, because Lord of the Rings is like essentially why people love like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, is because it's very intelligent. And there's not a lot of action, honestly, in that show. In the first season for Game of Thrones, people love that show because of the characters and the moments with these characters. So far, and obviously I might be saying a lot for just obviously seeing 2 of the episodes right now, but just talking about this one, I'm getting that vibe of it'd be great to see some action, but I'm really loving the moments with these characters. I want to know more about them. I want to know their motivations, right? Everybody has a different motivation. Right now, we're not really in the perspective of the villain. Like, oh, that's the villain of the show. Obviously, we know it's Sauron, but we're probably not going to get him till maybe even the second half, or maybe even like the final 3 episodes. I don't know. But I think it's a great pace. I think the characters are great. The visual effects are amazing. And yeah, there is a black elf in this. Whoa, that's crazy.
Literally, I don't care.
Exactly. When people saw that image, when people saw that image like a year ago, people were losing their minds. They were already trying to cancel it. Geeks and Gamers. Yeah, I'll call you out, this small YouTube channel, Geeks and Gamers.
Routinely bad takes.
Dude, yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised for somebody like him to still hate this show. He'll find any reason to be like, it's like boring, I said guys. Before, the show is boring.
Have to hate it. They have to. Because like it's the paycheck is lighter if they like it.
No, yeah.
I mean that literally. Like, they will not make as much money on their YouTube channels if they like the show.
I liked it a lot. I'm not going to say I love it. It's the best thing of the year. It's the best show of the year. It's way too soon to say that. It's literally just 2 episodes out of 8. But I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Yeah, and I think the series premiere is a solid episode. And I think the last thing too, is that when you said this too, Richard, for anybody that's new, I don't think this is going to be confusing for new people. I feel like people, maybe a couple things here and there, like what's this, what's that? I don't understand what the symbol means. What exactly is Sauron? How does this work? That's going to happen with really a lot of IPs, where even Star Wars, there's going to be some things that people question about, even in the first movie. I just think they did a pretty good job laying the groundwork for fans and also people who have no idea. Because I guarantee you, this will actually bring in a lot of new, even younger audiences, like really any age. But I really feel like it's kind of cool whenever something like this comes out, because you know what this means? People will watch this and then they're going to go back to the original films, or they're going to go to the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, God forbid, but they're going to go to the original trilogy films. And I think it's going to, at the end of the day, I think it does something good. It just reminds people of, oh, wait, let's go watch the golden standard of cinema, which is Lord of the Rings. And so far, I think they're doing a pretty good job respecting the lore. As far as what I know of, I'm not going to say I know everything and I've read every single book. No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I've just seen the movies. but from what I can tell and what I've researched here and there in my life, it doesn't seem like there's anything that's outright disrespectful to J.R.R. Tolkien and his legacy, like some people want to assume. But yeah, I think if I had to score the episode, I'd probably give it like a solid 8. A solid 8. It's good. It's not amazing. It's not, this groundbreaking new series that's going to change the game. If anything, it changes the game of like the atmosphere of what a show can be. And it can literally be a movie. Like we got glimpses of that in Disney Plus with Mandalorian. This solidifies, we live in a day and age where a show can look like that. Mm-hmm. What the F? Like that, those are just my quick thoughts.
I think too that like they're succeeding where Kenobi didn't, in that they weren't leaning so heavily on just people that may have already been familiar with the IP to like have an auto connection with the story, like on the basis of that, aside from the actual story itself that they were trying to present. It seems to me here that like, yeah, of course, obviously, like some of the first people that are going to watch this are going to be people that want Lord of the Rings content because they're already familiar with it, they already enjoy it, and they want to see more of it. But it seems in a way that they're not writing it explicitly for those people. They're writing it in such a way to like write a good story. And I think that like that is a huge difference that I'm seeing between this and Kenobi, is that like when I watch this, I don't have any reservations about whether or not there's certain questions that I have, and whether or not like I'll have some resolution to those, or whether or not like I'll have those things answered. The questions that I have at this point are questions that literally lead into the next part of the story, not like, yo, why did they do that? Like, this doesn't make much sense, or, just like different things like that, which is kind of what we encountered a lot of in Kenobi. And so I think that like they're laying a very solid foundation by like not, again, just leaning on the fact that like they have an IP that they can easily cash in on, and have decided to actually embark on writing a good story, just like a genuinely good story with good character development, good conflict, good resolution. Like with this first episode, we know what the evil is. We know the big bad guy, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be more revelations down the road. But we already kind of have an orientation for the world. Like we understand the axes here, and we understand that like there are bits of gray within this world, and but like we're properly situated in that as viewers, as an audience, and versus again like a Kenobi, or even let's say for example like a She-Hulk, even though that's a very different tone, that's a very different type of show. Just speaking from a story perspective, why that show feels so flat is because we don't get conflict resolution, right? We don't get to see these mini arcs in character, or many things in development, or things that actually like progress in any sort of meaningful way. A lot of characters feel, like I was saying earlier, like cardboard cutouts that are there specifically to prompt a certain plot point or something of that nature. Meanwhile, when we have something like this that again isn't just leaning on the IP, but is telling a good story in a masterful way, what we see is we see these characters through the lens of that world. And it's like there's not like any weird immersion like breaking or something like that. I mean, obviously like we're kind of dissecting it as we go along, in our minds. So there's certain things that are standing out to us, but like as a casual viewer, you're just in it. Like there are moments I was just in it. Like, bro, what is going on? Like this is crazy. So yeah, those are some of my additional thoughts. And I also agree, like the score is really great, especially at that when they were in the little ship, you know, because like choral stuff is like my thing. Like that stuff gets me every time. So like, yeah, that was a very like beautiful moment, you know.
It was beautiful, downright beautiful. No, man, yeah. I imagine seeing that in theaters, like blasting speakers, beautiful big screen. Like my mouth was just, because I saw your reaction to it. I'm like, dude, that was me. That was me. I was just like, oh my God. Also, I was in the third row, so I was like, oh my God, just lifting my neck up. I'm like, dear God, thank the Lord for freaking recliner seats. Like, yes, Lord, I need that. But yeah, it just, I don't know. To me, that's probably my second favorite moment in the entire show so far out of the 2 episodes, just because it just, to me, that felt very much, I don't know why, it just felt like a Lord of the Rings moment. It felt, I even felt like how people describe an out of body experience. Like I felt like I was being lifted up with them. Like I'm like, oh, when they're singing that song, I'm like, yes, I need something like this. It feels like I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in a long time in the sense of being in their world. Like granted, maybe it has been a long time. It has been 8 years since being in Middle Earth, but it's felt even longer. And I mean, if you want to say a good take of Middle Earth, it's really been since 2003. I was like freaking 8 years old by then. I wasn't really exposed to it till they were all out. And just, I felt like watching that sequence, and so far with this first episode, it's that moment in Ratatouille when that critic has that bite and he's like, whoa, takes him right back to when he was a child. That was my experience with this. I don't know why. I was just like, please, I really hope they land this. So for right now, it's a good start. And I really want more of those moments of like, yes, like I need that nostalgia, but it's nostalgia that's woven together in a story that's not so committed to like, oh, here you go. Here you go. Be happy with this. Be happy with that. We're giving you all this nostalgia bait. No, to me, no. I think it's very organic so far, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the ride. Tim, what are some of your thoughts so far? Are you enjoying it as much as us, or do you have more concerns with the direction?
I like it just fine so far. I'm not like I don't know, I'm not like hyper ecstatic, but I'm not like dreading it either. I don't even really feel like trying to give it a score at this point. I feel like the show has honestly barely told me what it's actually going to end up being about.
And because it's setting up, honestly, it's setting up a lot. There's a lot that has to be set up for this.
Yeah. Like I said, prequels they have an uphill climb. We just finished last week, and I'm not going to say or spoil anything about it, what I now consider to be the king of prequels, Better Call Saul. Like, it absolutely smashed it out of the park. It was top tier television. It was like 10 out of 10 good. And the uphill fight of it being predominantly a prequel that's hard. It's hard to do that and have it actually be meaningful. And the show is taking on a pretty beefy property to do that with, much like Better Call Saul did. The history is there. It's laid out. There were plenty of crazy events that took place before the Second Age too. So I mean, if they wanted, they could do I'm wondering if they're gonna try to do a First Age show further down the future. Like, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I'm looking at a chart right now of like all the people who ever held the ring. I mean, Sauron had it for apparently 1,850 years before he got it cut off.
Jeez.
There's like crazy primordial beings that lived in the First Age. there was the spider Ungoliant that the elves don't even know the origin of because it is such a primordial being. They think it actually just came out of darkness itself. It is a massive giant spider that tried to like made like a pact with what's its name, Melchior, like a primordial being of darkness, and their goal was to get this spider to the elven trees to like drain the light from them. Like crazy stuff of like these ultimate beings of power born from the dark itself that I feel like, oh, that'd be cool to kind of take on. But man, how do you present that in a way that meets your imagination? Like you have the limits of film going up against your limitless imagination. How do you even do that? That is the spider, by the way. Shelob is its final descendant. The last of its heirs. So, I mean, it's not like there's not plenty of spectacle for the show to pull from between its first and second ages, because The Lord of the Rings is when the ring is cut off of Sauron's finger, I believe that heralds in the third age, and when the ring is destroyed, that heralds in the fourth age. So there's plenty of time and plenty of events that they could cover. I think it's just The Lord of the Rings was such a big property, and all the history for it has been written out for so many decades that a lot of hardcore fans already know them. So I'm hoping they don't just like make up too much. I know that, you know, every cinematic interpretation takes some creative liberty. I just hope that they are enjoyable and don't make anything feel kind of cheap.
I'm hoping that they keep going this route where it's like, we don't need a big action set piece to establish that you are Lord of the Rings. I mean, I would love that. I think we'll definitely get that in the finale. But I am so fine with us building these moments, like the love story between the human and the elf, the wonder in that little girl's eyes, Nori, that she wants to venture off into the world and see so much more than just this little town. I love stories like that. And the little moments of her helping her mom, trying to help out the family, helping her siblings, and the music in the background, it brings this calmness. And I think I used that word reacting to it. It's like, I just get a calmness from this scene. And I just get a calmness in general from Lord of the Rings. Like, everything's going to be all right. Like, if I'm having a crappy day, I put on Lord of the Rings. I'm in Middle Earth. It's going to be a great day. And so far with this, I'm getting that feeling where I could pop on this episode and be like, God, that was good. That was a solid start. Not perfect in any way, but I think it's a solid season premiere. Guys, that was our first episode 1 reaction. We will be doing an episode 2, either in a couple hours it'll upload, or maybe a couple days. Who knows? But please do not forget to like and subscribe. Peace.